Hello, everyone, and welcome to Club Deck Corner here on Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. This week it's all about transfers as we are in the middle of the January transfer window. I am Scott Carney, and joining me is Alistair. How are you, mate?
Very well. Thought I was maybe going to miss the start of the podcast because I haven't even had a chance to say I was stuck in traffic. You can tell everyone's
Traffic's
back at work
murder
now.
today, man.
Pe-
How bad
people
was that
can't
today?
drive. People can't drive in the dark. Can't drive in the rain if it's windy. So you know what I mean? You're like in cars, can't drive.
Oh,
The
I'm the
same
worst,
person,
mate.
very
Honestly,
frustrated.
very frustrated. But when it's me and you, the thing is, when you pick me up and you're angry about like the traffic, I kind of laugh at you, and vice versa as well when it's me driving. But no, the traffic today was brutal, mate. Absolutely brutal. Aye, it was. Scotia, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I've not had any traffic to worry about. Not been into the house today. It's been absolutely miserable. But no, looking forward to this evening.
Yes. So yeah, we're going to do a wee bit of a. I mean, I know it's a lot of hypothetical stuff as well, but obviously the rumours are starting to circulate now, so we thought we'd concentrate a wee bit on the Rangers squad currently as well, just now, and as well as discuss a bit of the rumours that are flying about. Before we get into that, just a shameless plug: please do subscribe to our channel and like the video. Also, leave your comments with your opinions on the stuff that we are going to discuss tonight. Additionally, if you'd like to go a step further to support the podcast, you can join the YouTube channel by becoming a member for as little as 99p a month. And you can also buy the podcast a coffee and join the Coffee Buying Legend membership via buymeacoffee.com. All links for that are in the description for this podcast. Right, gents, we'll start with the squad as it is just now. There's a few things that have cropped up, I think, that have... There is more and more opinions on players coming, generating camps within the Rangers support, and there doesn't really seem to be much middle ground anymore. It's either you're in one camp or you're in the other, and there doesn't really seem to be an in between. So first off, I'm going to start with the goalkeeping situation. Now, McLaughlin obviously started at the weekend. Raised a few eyebrows, I think. Obviously, Beale tried to defend it by saying he expected quite a lot of long balls into the box. McLaughlin's better to come for crosses, etc. More than McGregor is. McGregor's never been part of McGregor's game. But it has led to the debate now of, well, how long will McLaughlin be in goal for? Ali, I'll come to you first. You were the one that actually brought it to our attention post-match on Sunday that the chances are McLaughlin will play in the cup games. So, and it's something that they used to do under Gerrard as well. They used to change the keeper for the cup games. And it's not uncommon. It's not an uncommon thing. If again, hypothetically, he has a solid game on Sunday. He had a solid enough game Sunday previous there. Obviously, he wasn't really tested in any way, shape or form. It was quite a comfortable day for him. It was only a couple of times he was called into actual action. If he continues for maybe, I don't know, the Aberdeen game, maybe the Wednesday night game, I think the Wednesday night game will probably tell us everything that we're going to need to know. Would you go along with that, mate, that he probably will play Sunday? I think once it comes to the preview pod on Sunday, we'll probably all pick him. But what do you think? If he plays Wednesday, do you think he may be the number one now going forward?
Yeah, I think so, to be honest. That Wednesday game's a key one because that's the league game. Sandwiched in between two cup games, the League Cup semi on Sunday, and then on the Saturday away at St Johnstone, the Scottish Cup. So I would think he'll play them because, like you say, about he is the cup keeper. It did last when Beale and Gerrard were in before they left to go to Villa. They did alternate the two keepers quite a bit in terms of he couldn't keep McGregor. He wanted to keep McGregor kind of fresh in terms of what age he is, but going forward, yeah, I think that Wednesday night game's kind of key, to be honest, in terms of who's a keeper. If it's McLaughlin, yeah, I think unless he makes an absolute howler along the line somewhere, it will be McLaughlin going forward for me. And you need to look at McLaughlin. His record last season when he came in for us was really good. See how many clean sheets he had, and we were all saying about him for being number one this season. And that Celtic game has scarred everyone in terms of what we think about him because he had a horror show. He knows he had a horror show, but you have horror shows. We've seen players go on to have fantastic careers with Rangers that have had horror shows at Parkhead. Fernando Rickson, there's one for you if you remember him getting hooked after 20 odd minutes, but he had a horror show there. And that's all in the back of everyone's head now about McLaughlin. I think you forget what he's been like for us. I still don't think he's the number one goalkeeper going forward, Carney, for next season. I'll put that in. I think when you go out and buy somebody, I think he's a good number 2. But for this season going forward, Wednesday night is key. And I think quietly he might be the number 1 going forward now.
Yeah, Scotia, I heard a stat on Heart and Hand. I can't remember what show it was. I was listening to it. And something like 11 of the 11 shots that have been McGregor, in the last 11 shots, he's conceded 6 or something like that. I might be getting that wrong, but there is definitely a stat out there that I probably really wasn't quite aware of. Excuse me. So I don't know. Again, it's easy to read into these things. It's easy to really overanalyze it, but I do think it came as such a shock. Not a shock, but you know what I mean? It was a wee bit, everybody raised an eyebrow at it, and McLaughlin getting brought in. And Ali's spot on. We are all scarred by that horror show that he had, and even against Ajax, he wasn't great at all. But now, would you go along with that? I think Wednesday night's really going to be the telltale sign whether it's going to be him for the rest of the season. And at that point, do we still keep McGregor as number 2, or do you start again looking towards the future and put McCrory onto the bench?
Questions. Firstly, in McGregor's defence, what I would say is those stats that you mentioned, I've not looked into them. I think I do recall hearing that as well. But some of those shots will have been when we were playing with a makeshift sort of defence, if you want to call it that. When we obviously didn't have Goldson and Davies in there, not a settled defensive partnership as such. So you take that into consideration there. But McGregor, we were all surprised when he signed on his extension in the summer there. I think we all thought that it was time for him to hang up the gloves and move on. McLaughlin came in and he was doing really well up until, like you say, that Celtic game and the Ajax game. Then rightfully dropped, I would say. There was a game, I can't remember what game it was in Europe, but McGregor was in goals that night, and if that had been McLaughlin that would have been in goals that night, he would have got slaughtered for it. Whereas McGregor kind of get let off the hook a wee bit. I felt at the time there wasn't really much noise around it because the team itself had played so badly as well that there was enough blame getting flung around there. I agree with what Ali's saying there about that this Kelly game's probably going to tell us everything in terms of what we'll do this season. I'd be worried if it is McLaughlin in goals because, like Ali says, that would, to me, suggest that they were then going into the market to look for a keeper in the summer because McLaughlin's 35, so he's got a few more seasons left in him, I would say. And his contract runs out at the end of next season as well. If it was me, and I've said this to you before, because we get beat in the Old Firm, or we drew in that Old Firm game there, I would now be playing McCrory in league games going forward for the rest of the season to see if he's up to number 1. Because if he is, then it maybe means that we don't have to go out and get a top-class new keeper in if McCrory does enough to show us that he's ready to take up the number 1 spot for this going forward. I would like to see that, but I'm not sure that we will. I've got the feeling that it's probably going to be McLaughlin and McGregor kind of fighting for the jersey for the remainder of the season.
Do you not think if they thought McCrory was number 1 material, we would seen him more by now? I know Carney says, why did he sign that contract? He must have been promised something. I'm along the lines with you. I can't see him coming in, McCrory. I can't see him playing many games. So I think McCrory will go.
Yeah, he's not played this season at all, McCrory. Yeah. And the previous season when he came in, he obviously came in when for the Old Firm game, done really well in that game. Kept a clean sheet. I think his clean sheet record, he's only played like 3 or 4 first team games really.
Him and his brother.
Record's brilliant. Yeah. But that's the thing, you're right, because he'll be looking at, I've said it before, he'll be looking at his brother, leaving Rangers now, playing all the time. And he's in 24, McCrory, so he's getting to the stage where it's now going to have to be, well, if I'm not guaranteed at least a shot for the number 1 jersey, then time to look elsewhere, which would be pretty disappointing. Because he's obviously on contract until 2025, I think they signed that extension to. So I would like to see McCrory given a chance, and whether or not it works out, we can then go into the summer with a better idea looking for a goalkeeper.
I think we've all said we'd probably like McCrory to get the chance. Because he's not done anything wrong, let's be honest. And it is the contract thing confuses me, but I know people are saying they're tying down your assets and maybe there wasn't an offer of anybody else even sniffing at McCrory at the point. But I think for him to sign on, he must have thought, well, there's something in this for me. Unless, again, look, each to their own. Maybe he's happy. He loves the club. He loves to be at the club. He loves to train at the club, and he's happy doing what he's doing. I mean, it's a not bad job to have. I'm not going to lie. It's not the worst thing to be doing with your day. But yeah, I would go along. I would go along with. I think Wednesday is going to be crucial. It's going to show the future of, I think, the number one for at least the rest of this season. And I think regardless, I'm not confident of McLaughlin continuing into next year as our number one. Anyway, I think at some point the goalkeeping position is going to need to be addressed, and it's a tough one to get right. To get the right type of person to be a number one at Ibrox, because your eyes, everybody watches you. Every little single mistake is scrutinised to an inch of its life. So it's going to be a tough one going forward. The only way now that I see McCrory playing is if we absolutely collapse in terms of, like, within the next 3-4 games, we get beat every game and the league is absolutely, like, completely unattainable. So that's the only way that I would see McCrory coming in, because I think if he was going to do it, why would he not have done it now? So it's a strange one. It is a strange one, the goalkeeping situation, but I think Wednesday will be the key to tell who's going to be the number one going forward. Another couple of players that I maybe split in opinion is Alfredo Morelos and Antonio Cholak. Cholak probably not as much, but we're at the point where the impending contract situation with Alfredo Morelos looming over the top of him really does rub people up the wrong way. People don't want to see the good in him. Not that he has been particularly good. We all know he's carrying injuries, etc. But it does raise questions to me, because I believe Antonio Cholak is a great striker. I really do think he's a superb player. He's done so well for him since he came in, but obviously he's been out injured the majority of the time. Beale's been here, and we haven't really seen him flourish yet in this Beale system. Ali, would that be safe to say that? Again, I can already see people putting in the comments about Morelos out or whatever, and some people want to keep him. I get that. But I think Morelos suits a Beale system better than Antonio Cholak. Discuss, mate.
It's difficult, isn't it? See if you can morph Cholak and Morelos into one player. Ideal. Yeah. That's what you want. But that type of player costs big bucks. I know what you mean. Cholak for me is more of a penalty box striker. He did, before he got injured, he was starting to move about the park, if you know what I mean, Carney. He wasn't as static. He was linking up well, and then unfortunately he got injured. And he had a right good spell just before he got injured, Cholak. I know what you mean. Morelos occupies defenders a lot more. He moves a lot more. It's difficult. I listened to Heart and Hands flagship last night when I was out, and it was Andy McGowan or David Edgar said that if we were going with Cholak as our striker, as our number one striker, they'd be worried in terms of the system. And I kind of agreed with him, because we all thought when Cholak was coming in at the beginning, or most of us did, we thought he was a replacement for Itten at the time when we brought him in. And he's kind of come up, and he's kind of come up to, well, he is our number one striker at the moment, because Morelos isn't performing on the park for us. But it's difficult. Morelos for me will go in the summer, definitely. He'll definitely go in the summer. I can't see him renewing the contract. But I think we need to go and buy a striker, because Kemar Roof, I know he's back. Kemar Roof, I'm laughing at a joke. He can't be trusted to play a run of games for us. So we need to go out and buy a striker. I think it'll be the summertime we'll look at a striker, unless something comes up in January. But yeah, I don't think Cholak is our number one striker for next season. Maybe this season, but for next season, when he rebuilds his team, he's not our number one striker, because I agree with you. I don't think he fits the way Beale plays football or the way he wants to play.
I think it's all down to the way that he likes the front three to move, you see it with
Alternate,
Alfredo and Sakala
yeah.
and Kent. Yeah, it's just constant
Like
movement.
Liverpool slightly. Yeah.
Aye, but Cholak can't come in off the right or off the
No.
left. I mean, it might work at times where he's maybe at the edge of the box, but in order to really drive, like the way Kent or Sakala would, to really drive forward, I don't see Cholak doing that. I really don't. Look, he might be able to adapt and bring something into his game like that, or maybe Beale will slightly adjust the system in order to try and fit him better and to play to his strengths. But in the way that I think we're seeing Beale set up, and the way that Beale, his idea of the way football should be played, in my opinion, I don't think Cholak will be right for that long term. I don't think he'll be right for that long term. Scotia, what's your thoughts on this? I say I'm not taking anything away from Cholak. Honestly, I'm not. I don't want people to think I'm battering the guy because I am a fan. I am a fan of the guy. He scores goals, but I think, yeah. I'll let you, Scotia. I'll let you. What is your opinions on what we've been discussing there?
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much disagreement for me for what you guys have said, but I think people, from what I've been reading over the last couple of days, people are tending to judge Cholak right now just based on that 45 minutes. He played against who were we playing at the weekend again? Can't remember. Dundee United.
Against them.
How
many beers did you have after that game, Scotia?
You need to go more, Scotia.
Yeah. No, but I think from the way I was interpreting some people's comments was that they were judging him purely on that sort of 45 minutes where it didn't really affect the game at all. But the team weren't playing well. But I do agree that Morelos probably is a better player for the system that Beale wants to play. It'll be interesting. It'll probably lead into your next question as well, Carney. But once Beale's got everyone back up fit and firing, it'll be interesting to see what he does. I wouldn't be adverse to the fact of Cholak and Morelos starting a game with each other because Morelos can play out on that right hand side, can play out on that left hand side. He can move about a bit more. Cholak probably not. He will be a wee bit more static, but with both the strikers then they're on, it then does give you the option to kind of tweak your formation about a bit more drastically than if you're just playing one of them. So I do agree that, to be honest, Rangers are kind of in a position where they're waiting to see what Alfie does. Right now, Rangers should be looking for a striker, a replacement for Alfie, but it's really down to what Alfie does, whether he stays or he goes. I mean, obviously, there's only another 20 days or so left of the window. Don't really see any clubs coming in for Alfie at the moment, even to sign him in a pre-deal or not the clubs that maybe Alfie would want to go to, because Alfie's not been at his top level. For Alfie to be his top level, he probably needs to play until the end of the window. Then he'll be in flying form, and then at that point, it's he's still got people can still come and approach and offer him that pre-contract. So we're stuck in a rock and a hard place with Alfie. That if he plays the way we want him to play and we know the way he can play, it'll light up clubs' interest in him for him to go or not. So I think Rangers do need to be kind of proactively looking for a striker to replace Alfie, because if Beale's playing the way like we potentially all expect him, he's going to play. Cholak potentially isn't the man for the job under Beale's system.
Yeah, I think, you make a great point as well about Morelos just now, mate, is the teams, if any team is interested, it won't be the team that he wants to go to or thought he was going to end up going to. That's probably the right thing. Do I believe there's a team out there that would sign him and take a punt on him? Absolutely. I've got no doubt about that some team would. It's that age-old thing that we say to us, we say to ourselves when we sign somebody that's maybe a wee bit of a dodgy run fitness-wise as well. If we can keep them fit and we can get them firing, then you'll never know. So I think it falls into that. But I believe there's probably already somebody. I reckon he's probably, again, this is all me guessing here. I've got no inside knowledge at all, but I presume somebody from somewhere will have made him an offer of a contract because they can speak to him now. Can they speak to him now? Yeah, they can, can't they? Sign him on a pre-contract? Yeah. So they can speak to him now. So I'd be shocked if there isn't someone, but whether it's the team that he wants to go to or not, I suppose we'll never really know. For Rangers to keep him now, the way that it's looking, I don't think the money's going to be worth it in the long term. I think Rangers should do what they can to recoup anything really for him. I've said like we signed him for $1 million, so I mean even if you get 4 million, it's not great. Like if you get money for him now and it's like only 4 million, it's not fantastic money, but it's still a profit at the end of the day. And you've got to think what Alfredo Morelos has done for us over the time that he's been here. He's definitely repaid that £1 million already. I don't think there's any great doubt in that. So maybe an interesting one. Morelos might run down to the end of the end of the season and just walk away and kind of wash his
Pull
hands
a
of it
Goldson.
and move on. But he could pull a Goldson as well, mate. Yeah, but I think, look, again, it's all guessing. I believe that Morelos will want to be the top player at the club. He'll want to be the top guy. He'll want the most money. And right now, I don't think he's earning that contract. And I think Beale possibly thinks that as well from his comments that he's made. Again, that's reading between the lines with comments that Beale's made, but I still believe that he would want too much. Again, we've said that. I think we all agree now. If we're going to keep one of Kent or Morelos, you keep Ryan Kent, because the way he plays him with this free role, I'm all for that. I think it's great to watch. But yeah, even Ali, some people have said as well in the comments there about Morelos changed the game on Sunday. Now, I don't think he changed the game in terms of directly something that he done. But what Morelos does is make defenders think that he's on the pitch and they're going to have to keep an eye on him, which opens up space. So I believe that he helped Rangers improve in the second half. He directly maybe didn't play very well or had a massive impact in the game.
Yeah, I think I said this after the game. I think Ryan didn't rate him at all, to be honest.
No.
I didn't really rate him that much as in being on the park. But what I was saying and what I think you were saying was that it gave their defenders something else to think about in terms of his movement, because he does move across that line. He's not static. So, yeah, he gave their defence something more to think about, which opened the game up slightly more for our runners, your Ryan Kents, etc., Tillmans to run behind. So, yeah, but I still don't think he was that great. I mean, I listened to Chris Boyd of Sky Sports, and he's not for Alfie at all at the moment. He's really not in his camp. Andy Walker actually came on and said he thought he changed the game. Chris Boyd was having none of it. But like I say, I rated him as a 6 out of 10 for me. I thought he had some decent link-up play at times, but at times his finishing wasn't great. There was the one Ryan was on about with the ball over the top, where he should have ran with the ball, drove with the ball, and he tried to do a kind of Kamar Roof, if you want to say, and look it over the goalkeeper. Wasn't really close, but it sums him up this season. Morelos, he's way off the pace for me, Morelos, but he's a handful because defence need to think about him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we'll come on to Friday and we'll do our Aberdeen and stuff, but he will play against Aberdeen, but he's all we've got at the moment. I know Kamar Roof's there, but
is he? But is he really? Is he really there? I think he's going to need time. Roof's going to need time. There's no doubt.
Quickly,
if he's got it. Yes, mate. I've got
on, just as Ali's saying, he's all we've got there. I've not read anything further about Čolak. I assume we won't find anything out until Friday about his injury or not.
Yeah, it'll be Friday. I'd imagine.
It's Friday and we'll find out he's out to the end of the season.
Oh, God. Aye. No doubt, man.
Just need to re-record this segment, then.
It'll be like a 1 in a million injury that he's got that's never been seen in a football player.
He put on Kamar Roof's football boots by accident.
Yeah, aye. He's went to Kamar Roof's doctor. That's him. That's him knackered. So no, we're not until Friday about Čolak for going ahead to the rest of the season. We'll move on to the next man, Scotia, the man of the moment, the man that split opinion again for a long time, and now I think everybody's loved him, but whether everybody's loved his ability or not, it's a different thing. It's Mr. Waka Waka, Fashion Sakala. Now, again, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. At that first half against Dundee United, he was truly awful, honestly. Just kept running into people. At one point, ran out the park and was still dribbling after he left the park. And then the kind of one that he should have cut it back, he gets the ball cut under his feet and just makes a complete hash of it. And wasn't a great first half, and in the second half, that goal was just sublime. I've watched that goal so many times. Even the wee flick from Jack off Jack's shoulder for the one touch with the right foot to absolutely bury it with the left foot. It's a fantastic finish. It really is, and he's an enigma. And I've said it before, and I'll still stick by it. He is an absolute enigma. But it brings me on to the right wing, the right attacker, I think we should probably call it now. We've been calling for ages, mate, about getting. Oh, sorry, before I move on, Brian, thank you very much. I forgot to say, Brian, thank you very much for the donation to the channel, mate. Sorry, I forgot to say that. I realised I forgot to say that. But yeah, it brings me on to this right attacker that we've been calling for ages, that nobody's nailed down the place, etc. What do Rangers do now? Do we go into the market? Is this an area that we do need to go in and invest in? Or are we going to give Fashion Sakala the jersey? Because right now, I mean, honestly, the guy deserves the jersey just now. If he's frustrating as hell, I get that, but you can't argue with his stats.
No, you can't. It's interesting this one. I think it was a couple of games before we finished up for the World Cup. Sakala had come in, and I think we all said, no, he had a really good game. One of the games, I can't remember off the top of my head what game it was, but we said, no, persevere with him. He'll be good. Keep going. And then obviously Beale's come in. He's played all the time under Beale, and he's been really good. He's been really good and really frustrating at the same time. Obviously that first half, and in that first half as well, he was making that and run that he made to run the ball out the park. It was a really intelligent run, played the offside trap really well, done all the what you would say is the hard part really well, and then the tackles himself. Sakala, right now, yeah, I'm quite happy sticking with him, but you mentioned there the right wing conundrum. I think you were right to say probably don't call it the right wing conundrum, because I think when people see the word right wing, there's a kind of expectation of what that kind of player should be. And we've not really had someone out in the right since Daniel Candeias. And even then, Daniel Candeias was by no stretch of the imagination absolutely fantastic. He was a really decent player, but he wasn't fantastic. But it's the way Beale plays. Beale's wants to play with his wingers in more inside, more like 2 number 10s, so that you can sort of rotate that front three. So do we need to bring someone in at the moment? Under the way that Beale plays, I don't think so, because I think he mentioned that Hadji isn't too far away from getting up to fitness and getting in, playing in the squad. And it wouldn't surprise me at times to see like that 3 in front of the Jack Lundstrom midfield is like a Kent, Tillman and Hadji playing along that kind of line with a Morelos or a Cholak in front of them. And then obviously you've got your likes of Sakala, you've got Matondo, who's sorry to bring him up, Garney, but you've got Matondo there who could contribute, and you've also got Scott Wright who could contribute as well. So right now, I don't think it's too much an issue. But again, it's it's actually similar to the goalkeeper question and the forward line question, or the striker question, in terms of need to wait and see once Beale's got everyone fully fit. And I think Beale's kind of said this himself, that he needs to evaluate everything once people are fully fit. Is that an area that we need to look at? Because I think we do have players that are waiting to come back that would fit into the system that Beale wants to play.
Yeah, I get that, and it's less the winger thing, isn't it? It's more the inverted 10s or whatever they like to call it. What I'd say, I'm useless at this terminology, but it's not really the winger position anymore, Ali. But look, it's safe to say that he's flourished under Beale, and maybe it's the kind of fresh eyes of a new manager and the belief that it's gave him. Ian Morgan. Sorry, Ali, I know you've just done that at the same time as me. Ian Morgan. Was it Zambian Ted McMahon? Brilliant. Ian, mate, thank you so much for that. For donation to the channel, mate. Really do appreciate that, mate. That's great. But yeah, there is no doubt that Sakala's improved under Beale. What's your opinions? Do you still think we need to go into the market there for someone? Because let's be honest, Rabbi Matondo, having crisis of confidence or not, he's hardly set the header alight.
Yeah, I agree with Scotia. I think he'll wait till summer to look at that position, because Hadji's due back the end of this month, apparently. So, but what Yanis Hadji we've got coming back, we don't know, because he's been out for best part of a year, Hadji. So we don't know what we're going to get. He's mentioned Hadji quite a lot. He wants Hadji to play in that area Scotia's talking about on that right side. So I think he'll wait to have a look at Hadji and take it from there. He's got Scott Wright to come on as impact player. He's got Sakala out there who's doing well at the moment. Sakala, for me, going forward, this season will do until the summer for me. I think he's a very good squad player going forward next season. Good impact player. I think that's what he'll be next season, unless he does something dramatic from now to the end of the season, which I wouldn't put it past him, to be honest, because you just don't know what's going to come for Sakala. His numbers, his assists since Beale's been in, has been really good. He deserves the shirt. I'm giving him the shirt going forward. I think he deserves to be there till. Well, it'll be difficult when Hadji comes back. I can see him alternating it a wee bit then for different games, but it's his shirt to lose. Matondo, we've had our saying Matondo. We've had a laugh about Matondo. But like I've said in here, it's not a laugh. We've spent £3 million on Matondo. He can't get anywhere near the bench. And I said, you look at that bench. Look at the bench against Celtic. Look at the bench on Sunday there as well. If he can't get on that bench, it's worrying. And it tells a story of where he is at the moment. I did see a wee clip today, something about Rangers were going to keep him and maybe instead of trying to punt him out on loan. I don't even know who would take Matondo at the moment, honestly, on a loan deal. I mean, he must be in decent wages as well. You would want, if somebody took him on a loan deal, you'd want them to cover the majority of the wages. Who would do that on his performances? I don't know. And where do you play Matondo going forward? Because, Sakala for me has nailed that position. Now, that is his position. Matondo's way down the list. We've got Hadji coming back. Scott Wright's ahead of him as well. I don't know where you play Matondo because we've got Aberdeen coming up, Kilmarnock away, which is tricky, and then St Johnstone in the Cup. So critical games, if you want to say the next 3 games coming up. Where does Matondo fit in? Does he even get in that bench? And what do you do with Matondo? £3 million was spent on him. I mean, it's all right to say that you can't just write off guys like that. £3 million. So it's a difficult one, Matondo. Can't get everything right in transfers, but he's one that at the moment looks we've got spectacularly wrong so far. But I hope he proves me wrong.
I hope he proves me wrong too. Generally, I do. And even Caroline said Matondo's the new Brandon Barker. I wanted Brandon Barker to prove me wrong.
Brandon Barker is better.
I don't know about that. That's a whole podcast in itself, mate. But I think as Rangers fans, you're always really quick to judge players. I do get that, but I'm not seeing. Obviously, we seen the West Ham friendly. We seen Matondo. We were like,
I got raving about him.
Boy, looks like a player, man. Like really chuffed for this. And I get it was just a friendly, but since then it's just nothing. It's not really happened for him, and I don't know how long we continue to try and get him into the team, or whether we just try and cut our losses with him and say, look, it's one of these ones that's just not worked out. And I'm trying to be as polite about it as I can, but when he's doing the stuff that he's doing and he's turning around and he's smiling at it towards the bench after he makes a dog's dinner it, I can't cope with that. It's one of those things, like as soon as I seen it I was like, no, that's plenty, off you go. I want no more of that. So Scotia, your thoughts on Matondo? Do you think Rangers will stick by him? Do you think we will? Or, no, just be best for everybody just to try and get him a loan to buy deal somewhere?
I'm always of the opinion that you need to kind of give a player a season, at least to kind of settle in, because it can take players up to a year to settle in to Rangers playing the kind of environment that you're playing in, because it's a completely different environment to other clubs. You know what you expect, what's expected of you as a player, even when you're, you need to be at the top of your game, even when you're poor. As weird as that sounds. So part of me still wants to give him time, but anytime he has played in a competitive game for me, he's not showed me anything really, and it's getting harder and harder to defend the stance that I'm on, if I'm honest. So I don't know where I stand. If a club came in and wanted to take him on loan for 6 months and pay his full wages, yeah, probably take that. It'd be probably beneficial for us in a financial sense. And like I say, I think we've got enough that side of those areas of the pitch that it's not as if we're bereft of options.
Yeah, time will tell, Matondo. As I say, time will tell, but it's unfortunately my mind's made up on him right now, and it's hard for my mind to change. I'm like, I want him to change my mind, I really do, because I've came around to this idea of Sakala as well. I mean, the amount of times we've seen Sakala in the past under Gio as well, where he had zero effect on the game for the amount of time that he was on the pitch. And when Ryan and I did the press pass for the, what game was it, the cup game? Who did we play? Queen of the South. Was it Queen of the South we played?
That was woeful, that game.
Oh, honestly, that was horrible.
Even Sakala was woeful in that game.
Sakala was so bad that game. I remember sitting talking to Ryan while we were on the gantry, looking at him going, mate, what are we watching here? I was like, it's Queen of the South we're playing. I was like, you should be doing a lot more here. He was very, very poor. But I mean, now, see, I can't really criticise what he's doing. Okay, it's not all the time. It's probably not going to be all the time. That's the thing. He's going to be one of these players that will frustrate you, but then he'll bring moments of magic. So fair play to me, to Sakala for doing what he's doing. Honestly, I think he's a credit to himself for just, what is it, Jamie Lowe says, dreams don't die. And Fashion Sakala is living the dream right now. Right, we'll move on to players coming in, potential players coming in. Now, we all know the biggest rumours anyway just now is Todd Cantwell from Norwich and Tom Davis apparently from Everton. Nabil's comments post.
You've listened to that video update.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I believe him or not, though. I listened to it in the car on the way home and I was like, I don't know if I believe that. Is that a Scottish thing? Scottish said, you're very Scottish. Is that a Scottish thing? Is his name Davis?
I don't know.
Davies?
I don't know.
Honestly, why you part of the Tartan Army for no reason, mate, honestly. Bill's comments post-match on Sunday. I mean, he said he wasn't going to talk about players and immediately spoke about the players. On Cantwell, he said he's a fantastic player. He's at a good age. He's at a good age and he's looking for players to make an impact when they come here. Players that he can work with and develop, and he wants the right hunger in their eyes. He wants to have that kind of face-to-face conversation with him. We've heard him saying that before. Ali, Cantwell, he's been out of favourite Norwich for a wee while. I did a wee bit of looking back and seeing what's happened over his time. It looks like he's fell out with a few managers before. He was linked with massive moves when Norwich first came up into the Premier League. Now, as I say, he has really fallen out of favour at Norwich, which is possibly why we are being linked to him, but it's one of these rumours that doesn't seem to be going away. Is it worth a risk in your eyes? I think he's 24. So, I mean, he's a young enough lad. Do you think Beale can rebuild his confidence?
Yeah, he ticks the box for what we're looking for, what Beale likes to work with. He likes to work with younger players and develop them. You look what we did with Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent was a player that bounced around umpteen players on loan, came to Rangers, and how many seasons has he been with us, Ryan Kent? Mm-hmm. One of the main men now, Ryan Kent. I've looked at this Cantwell's form. The 1920 season they were in the Premier League, 37 appearances, 6 goals, 2 assists. Then they bounced down to the Championship, 33 appearances, 6 goals, 6 assists. And then after that, this is where he's went downhill. They went back to the Premier League. He only played 8 games, no goals, no assists. And this season in the Championship, he's played 18 games, no goals, no assists. I do remember seeing him in the Premier League when he kind of broke through, and I remember looking at him because he had the kind of long hair. He kind of stood out.
Still does, Frank.
Yeah. And I always thought he looks a good player, kind of box to box player. I think he's quite similar to that Tom Davis or Davies, whatever you want to say. I think they're similar type players because again, he was the same kind of hair and he stood out and he was box to box as well. So I'd be surprised if we went. I know you'll talk about the other guy, but I'd be surprised if we got the two of them. I think it'll be one of either one. But Cantwell, 24 years of age, played in the Premier League. Yeah, he ticks the boxes, and he ticks the boxes, like I say, in terms of Beale developing players. We are not going to get the finished article. Let's be honest about it. We can't go down and get the finished article because it's mega bucks. It's going to have to be players, if we're looking in England like this, that you can maybe get a tune out of that's maybe he's fallen away. So I think he ticks a box.
I think he does as well. He is the type of player that we do need. He's when he was playing with confidence, he's not a player that's scared. He's not scared to take a risk. He's not scared to. In a similar way, maybe Lowry is. And they tell that Scotia would say he's got that gallus that he doesn't mind having a bash, having a go at it. And I do think he fits the bill of what we're looking for. But I think Scotia. I think no matter what, it is a risk bringing a player of that. I mean, he showed great potential, he really did, but it's whether you can rekindle that form and rekindle that belief in himself, and whether he's going to have it in him to be able to come to Scotland and be able to flourish in this league. But what's your thoughts, mate, on Cantwell?
Yeah, well, we definitely do need a midfield, potentially a couple of midfielders in, because it is an area that we really be needing to strengthen for a while. Although one thing that I was thinking about, and I keep on forgetting about him, is Tom Lawrence. And obviously, he's a wee bit further away in his injury recovery, but when he comes back, he's a player that can play either in the middle or in that kind of the three in front of the deeper line players. But we do definitely need to bring some people in. And looking at Cantwell, he seems like a decent fit, I would say. He's worked with Beale. I think Beale's mentioned he's worked with him before when Beale was in the Liverpool youth system, so he knows him, and that's to me is a bit of a positive, because you do then draw comparisons with Ryan Kent and what like Beale and Gerrard were able to get out of Ryan Kent once he came to us, like Ali was saying there. So that's looking good. He hasn't played since the start of November. I don't know if that's through injury or if that's, like you say, he's fell out with the manager or anything like that down at Norwich. I'm not too sure. I've not read into it enough.
I think it was the previous manager he fell out with.
Was it? Right. But he's
not changed their manager.
Oh, I don't know. I've not been paying attention to the Championship this season, really, so I couldn't tell you.
Sake, Scotia. Sake, man. You're meant to be like the football reporter for every league in the world, man. Come on.
No, but no, like Ali rhymed off his stats there, yeah, and they do seem impressive for a few seasons ago, but has he lost his way? Don't know, but you would like to think Beale's the type of manager that would get the player improving. We need to bring him in. He's, like you mentioned, 24 years old, and a big thing as well, he's English. That if you can bring an English player in, get him playing well, then there's the potential. I know you're going down way down in the future then, but there's a potential for quite a big sell or fee back down into the Premiership or the Championship. Yeah. Should it be? So it's only a good thing, I would say, being linked to him.
I think it opens up that is, if we do manage to get him here and get that's right. Somebody's just said that Dean Smith was recently at Norwich. If we do bring him up here, we do manage to get a tune out of him, and he does flourish, and we do get a decent run in Europe, and he flourishes there as well, I think it opens the door for, even in the future, for players in England that maybe are thinking, I'm a wee bit down the pecking order, I'm a wee bit out of favour here, that they could come up here and do a job, and then win their move back to down south or to a decent quality European team. So yeah, I think again, it's the one that seems to be the strongest rumour just now, to be honest, is that one. On Davies, the manager said that he's got a bit of the John Lundstrom's about him. He's another one. He's kind of fell out of favour at Everton, but I think we all, if anybody follows English football, will know Everton are a unique football club, and a unique, probably not in a good way. Ali, this one, or Scotia, I'll let you go first, even. I think this one, Rangers would need to be. There's no doubt there's talent there. There's no doubt there's talent in both of them. But with Davis, I think they need to assess where he's at. They need to assess how much he's got it in him, because a lot of people will take Scottish football lightly. It's probably a nice way to put it. So he has to be in the right frame of mind in order to come up here and succeed. But again, it's another one that both of the signings they've piqued my interest a wee bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar types of players in terms of, their age. They've both, I think they've both got, they're coming into the last kind of stage of their contracts with their respective clubs. And the story's kind of similar in terms of how they've been playing over the last few seasons. Although Davis hasn't really featured at all for Everton over this season and last season as well. I think he's only played a combined 14 games or something like that, 14 or 15 games. But previous to that, similar to when Ali was speaking about Norwich coming up there, when was it Ancelotti was in charge of Everton at that point? He was playing regularly for them, consistently being one of their standout players, and that youngster that breaks through. So there was big excitement around him down in Merseyside about him, and again he's fallen away. I think it's a player that he could look at the likes of Kent and Lundstrom. Certainly Lundstrom coming from a similar area of the world, and Yeah, I think he would potentially fit in up at Rangers, but I think there's probably a bit more substance to the Cantwell rumour than the Davis one at the minute. I think Davis, I know, in fact, I forgot to mention, I'd seen in Sky Sports that Norwich knocked back the bid for Cantwell. Sorry, easy for me to
Did
say.
I lie down, Scotia? Are you okay?
Was that your Wi-Fi there, Scotia? Was that
What happened there?
No, easy for me. Yeah, but no, Norwich knocked back a bid from a Championship club for Cantwell.
Yeah, that's right.
Potentially that's probably because they don't want their player going to a rival club, but I do think that Davis potentially have a few more suitors in and around the place, just because where he's coming from a bit of a higher caliber club in terms of bringing players through and where they are down in England.
Yeah, Ali, your thought on Davies, whatever way you want to say, it's your prerogative, I suppose. You probably had the nail on the head already, mate. I doubt we'll sign both of them. But even at that, I think it's nice to be linked with players, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, right? But it's nice to be linked with players that I've actually heard of.
Yeah, Scotia's correct. You feel very similar. Like I said, I think they're similar type players, same age. I was looking at his stats today as well. In terms of the last 4 years, his goals and assists are pretty much nothing. But in terms of his appearances, 19-20 season with Everton, 30 appearances, 2021, 25 appearances, and then after that, 21-22, 6 appearances in this season, 9. So extremely similar to Cantwell. I mean, that Davies, how you would say it, is burst on the scene at Everton when he was young. And like you say, he played regularly. Even before the 19-20 season, I said he was playing regularly as well. So he's a guy that's fallen away again, and again ticks the box of a Beale development player. He's a player in him. You don't play in the Premier League in England if you're a dud, to be honest. I know a few guys have came up here and fallen, but he's at a good age. A lot of these guys come up there at the tail end of their career, but he's at a good age, 24, and again he ticks the box. But I agree, I can't see us signing the two of them. I think it'll be one of whatever one, but the Cantwell one looks a stronger rumour at the moment.
Yeah, the Muncher of Curries has said, if both do come in, do you think there's someone due to leave through the transfer window, possibly Kamara? Now, again, this is an interesting one that it leads. It's easy for us to sit and say who we think might be leaving. I think it's more our preference of who we would maybe like to see move on. If you asked to put cards on the table right now, I think if we even sign one of the two, I think Kamara's days are numbered at Ibrox, because I do think he prefers Ryan Jack over Kamara. Ali, your thoughts on that? Do you see anybody from the team that you're for sure thinking is going this window?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what Rangers would want for Kamara. Kamara's a weird one because under Beale and Gerrard in the 55 season, we'd say he was at the peak of his valuation, if you want to say. Now, I know he's got a couple of years left in his contract. Kamara, what's Kamara worth? I mean, do you want me to fling a figure out in the air that it's £4 or £5 million? Is that being realistic?
Yeah, 3 million, something like that. Yeah, 3-4 million.
Yeah. I don't know. Kamara's a funny one because I don't think he wants to be here. I keep saying he's lost his two pals in Joe Rebo and Calvin Bassey. Beale likes him. I like Kamara. See Kamara when he's on form. He's a fantastic footballer, but he needs to be in his head in the game. And I don't think he's been here at all this season. Kamara, he's been in the football pitch, but I don't think he's actually been there. If you know what I mean. I think he wants to go elsewhere. I think we'll look to offload him. And it's a difficult one in January to try and offload players. There's umpteen players we want to try and offload, but we need people to come in for them. A lot of the players we want to offload are probably coming to the tail end of their contracts, and we will offload them in the summer. A lot of teams will look at them and wait till the summer, I think. Players like Kamara Roof, he's got a year left in his contract too. I'd look to try and offload him too, but yeah, I'll be honest, Connie, I can't see many players leaving Rangers in January. If any, maybe a couple of guys on loan, younger players possibly, a Lowry or a McCann maybe, but that's it.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. It's hard because of the way the seasons went. Nobody's really been in really great form. So as form determines how much you pay for a player. It's as simple as that. Contract length and form, that's really how it goes. Or potential, even. Scotia, Curry Munster's put up there, Kamara's so frustrating as he's good and sometimes the quality just oozes out, but there is way too many times he would rather play an easy pass than take a chance and have a shot at goal. Do you think Kamara is one of them players? Look, there was rumours that he'd asked to get moved away. There was obviously the rumours, but do you think he is one of these players that Beale constantly talks about as having a bit of a confidence issue?
Potentially, Kamara, he does come across as quite a quiet person, and he sometimes does see it play a wee bit within himself at times. Again, we mentioned this during the 55 season that Kamara's such a good player when he's on it. I mean, he's probably too good for Scottish football, and sometimes Scottish football can drag him down in terms of the way he plays. I think he could be, I've said it back then, and I'll say it again, I think he could be strolling the English Premiership, like with an Arsenal-like team. It'd be great in the team like that, and they would be great in the Serie A. I think he's that type of player. He's probably our biggest sellable asset at the moment, Kamara, and I think he's contracted to the end of the 25 season. So I would be, if he was to go in January, I'd be looking for 9-10 million minimum. Whether or not his performances merit that valuation, probably not, but that's what I'd be looking at as a minimum because of the length of his contract and because we all know how good he can be. But I don't know if I would offload him in the January transfer window because, like some people have mentioned in the comments there, Arfield's contract's obviously up, Davis's contract's obviously up, but he's obviously, I think he's just had that operation now, Stephen Davis, and it looks like he won't be back playing football if he wishes to continue until 2024, potentially. So we're going to be losing a few midfielders, and obviously Jack's in that situation that what happens with him? Is he going to stick around for another year, or is he going to go at the end of his contract in the summer? Well, I hope he does, yeah. So right now, Kamara is one of those ones, if you let Kamara go, then you're looking to bring in another two. If we do bring in Money Cantwell or Davis, then you're just pushing the problem down into summer. We'll look to add in a few more midfielders. And in terms of just one other person, I was thinking, like you were saying there about players going out in the window, the only other player that I could see us getting any decent money for right now and to go would be Borna Barisic. But right now, I don't think I'd want him to leave, obviously because Yilmaz is still out injured, but I wouldn't want him to go at the moment either. But I think he's the only other player that would kind of command a decent fee for us at the minute.
Yeah, probably, mate. Again, but would it be that decent a fee as well, though? As I say, all these things, especially in January, all these things they're kind of either blown out of proportion or they're ridiculously lowballed. So yeah, but right now, because of Yilmaz, I can't see he's wanting to get rid of Borna. I don't think that would happen. I've seen a few put in the comments there, and I've got a memory like a goldfish. I don't remember anything. I'm terrible. Does Glenn Kamara need an operation?
I think I remember hearing something that someone had mentioned that, but I've not really heard.
There was something, there was something about an operation that I couldn't tell you, but I do remember hearing something about it.
Was it his ankle or something? Was that the St Mirren game or something last year? Was it his ankle?
Sure. I think he's been playing through something and potentially might need an operation, but
right,
I would need to look into it.
Need to same. As I say, my memory is truly awful, man. Absolutely terrible. So yeah. Right, the last one just before we go, I don't think there's anything in this, to be honest, is Cho Ju-sung, that is the South Korean footballer. I know nothing about this player, but Celtic were strongly linked with him. We've now apparently been linked with him. Only thing I know about him is I've seen him a couple of times at the World Cup. Scotia, you probably watched every single game of that World Cup, I would imagine. So you've probably seen more of him than most.
And the South Korean League as well.
And the South Korean League, yeah, you're an expert in that field, mate. That is on your CV. You're an expert in that field. I don't think he's the style of player that Beale's looking for. I'm going to be honest. I don't see that one as a goer. I think that one is agent or paper talk.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had a fairly decent World Cup, although South Korea didn't have a great World Cup overall, but he scored twice against Ghana. If you remember that fantastic 3-2 game, I know you were all firmly glued to it. Scored twice in that game.
No chance, man.
and then with the help of good old Wikipedia, I seen that he scored 13 goals, in the season just gone past in South Korea. No, I tend to be like you, that I think this is just of Celtic are being linked with a player, let's link Rangers with a player. I think it's one of those ones. However, what I would say is it's really a market we should be looking into. I was looking about obviously we've got our traditional markets in Scotland, England, and Europe. We don't really utilise the market, like the Asian market. I don't think we've really ever brought anyone in from
I was
Asia.
Scotia. I was thinking that today. I can't think of a Chinese, Japanese, or Korean player we've had.
No, certainly not out for sort of the Southeast Asia nor Eastern Asia. No, the closest I could find was Tugay, took him from Turkey. Probably had a few players from Turkey, and then Ginsburg and Avikon from Israeli clubs. But would you really class Israeli as Asian? That's more European, just for geopolitical reasons. So we haven't really utilised that market.
Let's not get into political chat, Scotia. Let's not get into a political chat here.
I will not. No. But I think it's a market we should be looking into anyway, because I've seen the Hearts have just signed a striker from the J League as well. So this is obviously because Ange Postecoglou's come into Celtic and he knows that market. It's opened it up. But for me, it's something that we as a club should be looking at, these other markets, particularly now that things have changed because of Brexit and things. The rules about bringing players in are more similar across the world now for us. So certainly need to be looking in at these markets.
Yeah, Ali, I do think this one's paper talk, mate. I don't think there's very much in it, to be completely honest. Scotia makes a point, though. Obviously, I don't need to tell you this, that Celtic are looking into that market. Obviously, Ange knows that market very well from his experience as being a manager out there. Safe to say, I mean, again, without kind of going into their team, a couple of the ones that they've signed I rate, a couple of them I really don't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that matter because I don't know anything about it. But I mean, it can't hurt having a look, can it?
Aye, it's a difficult one because, well, if you look at them, he's worked in that market, so he knows that market, and he's got a couple of good. You have to say he's got a couple of decent players out of that market. Mm-hmm. A couple of players he's probably failed on as well that have not really played for him. A couple of Japanese players that have hardly played for Celtic at all. But you'll always get that. He's signed another couple from that league which they haven't played yet. I think it's our 2 players he's signed from there. So yeah, he knows that league. But I mean, we'll have a scouting network all over the world. But it is an area of the world like. I'm just talking to Scotia there that we've never dipped into. It's knowing us, we would go out and sign one. Absolute dud.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I do remember. I do remember years ago, Celtic dipped their toes into that market and they signed him with a big defender, Dewey, that came over. Scotia, you probably remember him, and he was an absolute dud. I think he lasted about a couple of games for them and get sent away, but. They've done well in that market because they've got a manager that's worked there. We've got a scouting network, but I don't think they'll be over there scouting teams all the time over there. So I don't know. I think it's paper talk, that one, Carney. We've got 3 strikers at the moment. I know Cholak's out. Depends what's happened with him, but paper talk for me. But nothing would surprise me.
No. Nothing would surprise me, but I just the style of player that as I say, I did see him at least one game. I seen him, and I'm like, that's not really what we're after. I don't think that's really what's going to suit us. Good work effort and everything like that, but nah, I just don't see. I think that's a bit paper talk. I don't think there's very much in that. So it'd be interesting to see. Hopefully, as I say, I was obviously I've got no doubt in my mind. The first thing tomorrow morning, Rangers will announce a signing. I've got no doubt because it'll leave us with nothing. At least we can talk about it on Friday. I get that, but obviously tonight I was hoping for something. But it does look like we're getting close, but nothing confirmed as of yet. So yeah, it's nearly an hour tonight, lads, which is a wee bit longer than usual for our Club Deck Corner. So that will do us. Thank you everybody in the chat as always. Thank you for the donations as well. Really do appreciate it. Ali, for tonight, mate. Thank you very much.
No problem. getting closer to that Sunday game against the Sheep, which I'm looking forward to. A couple of beverages. I'm off Monday at work as well, so I'm looking forward to that game. But no, I'll be back on Friday. I'll be hosting this Friday, so I will be reading the Manscaped promo out, which I cannot wait for. I look forward to that one. So no, I'll see you on Friday.
Yes, tune in for that at least. Honestly, you might as well. That's a laugh. Scotia, thanks very much, mate, and see you on Friday too.
Yeah, cheers, always a pleasure, and yeah, looking forward to Friday to talk about football rather than speculation and transfers.
I think you'll still be talking about that.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. As long as we don't get political with stuff and keep ourselves clear from that, Scotia, that will do.
Oh, Jim's slowing in the
right
end.
to the end. Right to the end, Jim. Honestly, thank you, Jim, mate. That's amazing. Pretty much every pod, mate, you're in, but I'm the donation to the channel, mate. You just I can't thank you enough, mate. Honestly, that's absolutely superb. Really do appreciate that. We will be back on Friday as we all eyes turn to Hampden, and hopefully we've got a new signing to speak about as well. That would be pleasant. So before you go, please do like the video, please do subscribe to the channel, and whatever you listen to us, if you do listen to us, can you just drop us a wee 5-star rating as well? That would be very much appreciated. So yes, speak to you all on Friday. We'll be back with Club live at 6:30. Until then, we are Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week and speak to you on Friday. Cheers, everybody.